We have a bunch of sound technicians back here. Better? Cool. All right. All right. Well, anyway, welcome to the deliberative session for 2026. I'd like to introduce some of the people up here and a few in the audience. For the school board, we have Chairperson Moira Taylor, Vice Chair, don't applaud for everybody, we'll be here a long time. Vice Chair Carrie Neal, and board members Garth Svensson, Rick Walker, and Jason Baker. District Attorney Peter Bronstein. The Advisory Budget Committee members, which may be in the audience, Sarah Gould, Scott Cheese, and Sarah Camus. We have our school district clerk, Anne Marie Cummings, hiding here behind the TV. Superintendent Deanna Ray, she's here. Finance Manager Vicki Druin, Director of Student Services Katie Kukesh, and principals from the ECLC Laura Deely. Laura here? Oh, there you are, way back in the corner. The elementary school principal Rich Boardman, and middle school principal Elizabeth Tallon. Director of Operations Bridget Connolly, Curriculum Coordinator Emily Sherman, Technology Director Jeff Delange, hiding back here with the electronics, Facilities Manager Joe Williams, who made it possible to get in here today, and we have our members of the supervisors of the checklist, Suzanne McNeil and Norm Tremblay up and back, who checked you in. I believe Mr. Boardman has an opening with the elementary school kids.
All right, come here. So I'd like to just first introduce you to three of our fourth grade students from BES. We have Echo and Alex Smith and Molly Geyer. Turn and wave to the crowd. So these three are here today just to share a little bit and just to celebrate some of the work that they did. So this year we were able to initiate really our first actual Lego League was something that we've been trying to do for a couple of years now. And so just a little bit of background. Our STEAM teacher, Ms. Cahoon, was able to apply for an NEA Foundation Student Success Grant. And that's okay. How's that? Is that better? So our STEAM teacher, Ms. Cahoon, was able to apply for and receive a grant through a Foundation Student Success Grant and was awarded about $4,100, which were all specifically for Lego League supplies and training. So this fall, Ms. Cahoon ran her first rounds of the Lego League with third and some of our fourth grade students who are here today. And we are planning to run the same program later in the spring for first and second graders. So by the end of the year, Ms. Cahoon will have reached about 72 students in grades 1 through 4 for this after-school enrichment activity. The challenge this year was all about archaeology. So students spent each session learning all about archaeological, that's a tough word, jobs, sites, tools, and training, and then using that information to create an archaeological scene out of Lego pieces. The coolest part, in Ms. Cahoon's opinion, was that the requirement of making at least one object move or interact with the pieces around them. So students needed to learn how to code sensors and movement using the Lego Spike Essentials app in order to make this happen. Overall, we found that the program was really a lot of value because of its reliance on cooperation between teammates and among the different teams, and obviously the connection to their enrichment in STEAM activities. So the three young ladies are here today just because of the work that they did with that group, the amount that they learned, and just really their kind of ability to be role model students and role model community members within that setting. So first of all, I want to say thank you and congratulations to you three. So what we'll do now is we're going to lead everybody in the pledge, and then if we have any questions or anything for you, we can do that after. Okay? So we'd ask you to all please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any questions for them? Any questions for them? Here's where Moira doesn't want to trip and fall.
Watch out, because that's the little slippery spots.
I have to say, I'm a little jealous. I wish I had that opportunity when I was in school, but I'm really old, so that didn't exist. But here's a flag pin to thank you for coming. Keep up the great work. And who's Molly who has a little sister here? I'd like to give your little sister a pin. All right.
Thank you, folks. You're welcome to stay for the meeting, you know. Okay. All right, School Board Chairperson Moira Taylor has some opening comments.
Pardon me, because I have a strong distaste for public speaking. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming out, especially in this lovely weather that Mother Nature has brought us today. I'd like to welcome community members, the district admin, my fellow board members, our advisory budget committee members, as well as all the other people that make this all happen. Thank you to our superintendent and admin team for their time, expertise, and hard work on the development of this budget. I want to thank my fellow board members for their commitment and careful stewardship of district resources, and extend sincere appreciation to the budget committee members for their time and willingness in reviewing data, asking hard questions, and keeping students at the center of this process. Your support and help was invaluable. We as a board have done our best to continue to provide a quality education to our students while being good financial stewards, and sometimes they're in conflict with one another. There's much of this budget that's not within our control, and potentially even more with pending legislation out there. But I'm proud of the work we've done with this budget, and today's discussion is an important step in ensuring our financial decisions reflect our district's priorities and our shared responsibility to our students, our staff, and our district, as well as the taxpayers of Barrington. Thank you again for being here and your continued interest and investment in our schools and our students.
Okay, thank you. We'll go over the rules of order for the meeting. Number one, the moderator follows no set rules of order. Voters have the right to challenge the moderator's rules and rulings. Number two, only registered voters, school district employees, and the school district's attorney will be allowed to speak. Number three, after an article is introduced, the school board, superintendent, and ABC will be, that's Advisory Budget Committee, will be recognized first before any comments from the floor. The moderator may limit debate. Number five, comments should be concise and relevant to the article under discussion. Personal attacks are not allowed. Number six, all debate and questions will be through the moderator, which means you don't go and talk to individual people in the audience or up here. Number seven, speakers must be recognized by the moderator and identify themselves before speaking. Number eight, complicated motions should be submitted in writing. Number nine, only one amendment will be considered at a time. Number 10, to request a secret ballot, and we hope that you won't, but if you do, to request a secret ballot, 5 or more voters in attendance must make the request in writing before a hand vote is called for. Immediately following a hand vote, 7 voters may request a vote by secret ballot. Number 11, voters may move to restrict reconsideration of an article after discussion of that article is complete. If the motion passes, there can be no further discussion of that article. And number 12, please silence your electronic devices. Okay, Superintendent Deanna Ray will talk about the budget.
If I would have gone the other way, I would have tripped. All right, first I want to check and make sure everybody can hear me. Yes? Excellent, thank you. I tend to have a pretty loud voice, and I strangely am so excited that I have people in the audience. It's difficult to go through a process for starting really in the summer and then really at it in October and share the content and the information with the same faces week after week. So I love it that there's people here that probably have not heard this before, so thank you. So I'll start out by thanking, first and foremost, our students and families, because that's why we're here doing the work that we do. Certainly our community, one of the most invested, involved, supportive communities I have had the pleasure of working for sure there. Our dedicated school board and advisory budget committee, and of course our dedicated administrative team and all educators and staff across the district. So thank you. We can't do this work without all of you. This budget has certainly been a true team approach. It is every year. We ensure that we are as open and collaborative as possible, listening to all the input from all of you, and of course, across the state and federal guidelines, there's always multiple layers of things to consider there. As Moira mentioned, we had to work particularly hard this year to be the best financial stewards that we could be. We had some factors just simply out of our control this year that we had to just take into account, and I will go into that a little further. The two biggest things I would say, one would be enrollment. This is an aging state, as we know. We are lucky in Barrington that we are still, our mean average age is still slightly below the state average, which tells you we have a little bit of a younger population and younger families potentially in town. But even given those factors, our student body is continuing to decline. And that really challenged us to make some hard decisions this year around number of teachers and class sizes and those kinds of things. In addition to that, families have a lot more options now, pathways to schooling, in addition to public school. So we've seen some changes there with our student population as well. The absolute biggie is health insurance. It's just rising costs, rising use. Barrington, unfortunately, this is not a Medal of Honor in this case. We were at the absolute highest increase that school care saw. So we had a 34.8% increase in just health coverage this year, which of course we are required and want to provide that support and coverage for our staff members. So that we just had to take into account and embrace right at the onset of this budget. All right, here we go. After all that, I'm just now getting to the outline. I'll share the budget process, the timeline, our mission, vision, and 5-year goals, the traits of a highly performing district, some of those mandates and changes that we don't have control over from the state and federal levels, some impactful data and decisions, mostly around enrollment numbers, show you what our historical and projected enrollment is, a little toe into high school tuition, our overall budget increases from this current budget year to the proposed for next. Then we'll get to what the actual numbers look like for the proposed and the default budgets. Look at our per pupil cost comparison as compared to the state, as well as our capital reserve balances, what our grant funding looks like. I will have a little discussion around open enrollment. We do have a warrant article, and many of you in the audience may not know the details around open enrollment, and I will tell you it changes every single day. There was almost a vote this past Thursday. It was halted. I was on another call at 4 o'clock yesterday getting additional information about where that bill sits with the legislators at the state level. So I will talk about that a little bit because we do have a warrant article for open enrollment on the docket for today. And of course, questions and answers when we get there. Oh. Okay. I just have to be patient. So I've think I made mention about most of this already. We start early October, multiple meetings. Many of our meetings throughout October into December are budget-focused exclusively. We review all of the line items, entertain questions, have some healthy discussions around what's appropriate and needed. And then the Advisory Budget Committee is there throughout, so they are part of listening to the decision-making and the process. They have an opportunity for direct questions as we firm things up at the middle of December, which then rolls into our budget hearing on January 6th. February 7th. Here we are today at our deliberative, and then the vote will take place on March 10th, also here at the middle school, right across the hall in the gymnasium. So our mission and vision, we updated a couple of years ago. We empower our community of learners in a safe and supportive environment to nurture compassion, cultivate curiosity, and inspire innovation. And I think you heard a little bit about that when our kiddos were here about the Lego League. And our vision, the district strives to be a community learning and growing together, giving students roots and wings. I am certainly not going to read all the words on this slide. So this overarching our 4 bucket areas for our 5-year goals. We are in year 3 of 5. Operations, so all things facilities, fiscal technology, multi-tiered systems of support for academics as well as behavior, and of course, community support and involvement. So traits of a highly performing school district. We are well on our way with documented data-driven goals. We've been refining processes, providing targeted supports and professional development, in order to continue making progress on all of these 9 areas that come together to make a high-performing district. Okay, so here are some of the new mandates and changes that we don't have a choice about. They must happen. I mentioned open enrollment a few minutes ago. We now are required to have a line item included in our operating budget for open enrollment, so we do have a line item. Once we get there, Vicki can find the number of the line for you. I can't do that off the top of my head if you're interested, but there is $1 in there. And when I explain the warrant article and the why, you'll understand that. So my tendency is to then explain now, but I'm going to wait. We also are required to have posted educator and administrator salaries for the first time. So you may have seen the signs that Vicki had to create looking back 10 years average, and they've been posted at the town hall and the post office and on our website. So that is new for all public school districts in the state this year. The other new area is SAS, which is the statewide achievement test. Those proficiency rates, so for us, 3rd through 8th grade, must be printed on the ballot. So you will see it as part of the warrant article today, as well as the per pupil cost. So both of those items have to be on the ballot this year. Additionally, you may recall from last year, we had started diving into the selection of a reading and writing curriculum. It is now required to have a research-based curriculum adoption due to some financial constraints. Then we weren't quite ready to make the decision, and it's not mandated until July 1 of this year. We pushed that decision into this year's budget process, and so now it is required and necessary. The Hold Harmless grant, which I don't think many of you are probably aware of or have heard me talk about before. Unfortunately, the state has made a decision to phase that grant out. We do get that grant, and it's a complicated formula. If anybody would like me to explain it, I will, and the reasons behind it. But I think the important piece is it's getting phased out 20% at a time over the next 8 years. So this year, we will go from getting $308,000, and just like adequacy funds, those are funds that go directly to the town to then offset what they then send to us each month to support our operating budget, and then ultimately help to reduce your tax dollars. So we're losing some funds there in this upcoming cycle. So this, I think, is where things got a little challenging. Nobody, typically looks at their staffing and their budget and says, oh, where can I cut positions, right? Usually we're asking you for more positions because our student body becomes more diverse and potentially grows. When you look around town and you see all the building, you are sitting here thinking to yourself, you have to be out of your mind, Deanna, like the numbers should be going up. Actually, Cindy Taylor is here in the audience. She has been managing that piece for me. So I met with Connor, who's also here, town manager, to get the list of streets that were new in town so we could very closely, through our student information system, track the new students as a result of new builds. So interestingly, we have had 72 new students on all these new roads combined enter our school system, yet we are still seeing a very slight, and I say slight because comparatively to other towns or communities in the state, our decline is slight. We'll go into the enrollment in a few minutes. So as a result of that declining population, we did make decisions to, although number-wise and per policy class size for here in Barrington, we theoretically could have looked at more than 2, but from an early intervention, and also you want to be cautious because there are still homes being built, we did put forth a budget that eliminated a preschool and a 4th grade classroom. So one question I've been asked multiple times over the last several weeks, and you should be asking this question, is what does that do to class size? Class sizes will not go up as a result of those reductions. So the current 3rd grade class numbers, when you then put them into 4th grade with 1 less teacher, the class size numbers do stay the same. It was very important to all of us to maintain programming and class size, not cause, changes in the wrong direction. The other important thing you will see in a couple more slides is this is not just a one-off kind of year. We have 4 years in a row of our kindergarten classes being smaller. So next year at the elementary school, 1st through 4th grade will all be below 100 students per class, per grade, I should say. Alrighty, so based on December 1st, usually we use our October 1 counts, but I make some changes up until December 1 before we put that final proposed budget forward, because we want to make sure we are as on top of our high school numbers as possible, since that's arguably a tuition check per head that goes out the door, so we want to be as accurate as we can there. You can see the change in preschool from the current 54 students, and by reducing to 2 classrooms, we will enroll 50 students. We want to ensure that we stay at that 12 student per classroom class size. We did do some kind of experimenting a handful of years ago about how big is too big in preschool. I will tell you with all certainty that more than 12 is too big for 3- and 4-year-olds. So we have made that commitment. At the kindergarten level, currently we have 84 students. I did do a range for next year of 85 to 90. The total at the bottom is based on an assumption that we would get 90 students. We just don't know until it happens throughout the summer months. And then 1st through 12th, we have pretty good certainty, with the exception, of course, of move-ins, move-outs, that we would just bump everybody up a grade level, and then we arrive at that 1,346 number. So you can see that the change primarily is at the elementary school, 33 fewer students there, and also at the high school. So clearly we have a larger 4th grade class leaving, going to BMS, so it keeps the middle school numbers very stable, and then a smaller 8th grade class heading into high school with a larger 12th grade class going out. So that's how that all unfolds. So just to look a little more closely at our high school numbers, I suspect as the years go on, it will become less and less important unless things change dramatically to continue to look at it at this deep of a level. We always have, because there used to be a much larger discrepancy between the tuition rate at the 3 high schools, and now the rates are pretty close, and so budgetarily, it's not as painful if more students go to one school or the other, because they have yet to make their final decisions about which high school they will attend. I will tell you the Oyster River Lottery did close, and there are currently 47 students on that list, but that doesn't mean all 47 will attend. It just means they wanted to make sure they had that as an option. So packets are due next Friday, and over the upcoming weeks, those numbers will start to become solidified and as they commit to their high school of choice. Here's the tuition rates for all of the high schools over the last few years, and you can see the difference there, where now we're pretty close in the rate per student, regardless of which high school they are attending. And we don't get the Dover cost until fall because they're a city structure, and so we have to wait for that. But we're usually pretty spot on with our guesstimate. We actually were able to lower the actual 25-26 a tiny bit based on what we had projected, but we were super close. Vicki, yes? Yeah, 200-ish? Mm-hmm. Yeah, like we were within like $200 per kiddo, so. Come on. All right, so this is preschool through 12th grade history. If we look at that 1,378 number for 2025, like that doesn't really tell the story. What tells the story is the previous slide that I showed you that looks more detailed at each grade level, but I just wanted you to see the fluctuations that have occurred over the years. And if we take high school out, this is our current enrollment for preschool through 8th grade. And this population is really what drives the items within our operating budget outside of those high school lines. So that's why I separate it out, because this is the population that we really focus on within, obviously, here just in town with us with our budget lines. Okay, so I mentioned earlier, our major increase this year was as a result of health insurance. So 34.8% increase, 3.28% of the overall budget. So without health insurance, our proposed budget is actually under 3%, which is pretty remarkable. It's tough to do with inflation and different factors, you know, contractual obligations, food service, transportation, teacher, paraprofessional contracts. So over $1 million just in health increases. We hope that's going to even out next year. I attended their School Care's quarterly meeting this week, and we had some very positive financial feedback from them. So they are in much better standing than they were. And the deficit or the need to look at an assessment to rebuild their coffers was simply out of use, not just in Barrington, statewide. There are 90 districts and municipalities who use school care, and they had several users that needed $250,000 plus in health coverage costs in any given year. So that has caused a significant impact for us. Additional overall big picture increases for this proposed budget, like I mentioned, the mandated ELA curriculum adoption. We did add 6% to facilities, technology, and supply lines. That's just simply the cost of doing business with the cost of materials and shipping and handling. And then we have the other contractual obligations that I mentioned, transportation, educator contract, and food service increases. So having said all that, gets us to these numbers, our current and proposed and our default. So you can see 5.58 increase, and 4.95 would be the default, and again, 3.28 of that is health insurance. There we go. Here are the per pupil cost numbers that you will see on the ballot this year. And historically, we have come in elementary and the middle school level at slightly under the state average. And so I think that is a testament to being as financially responsible as we possibly can be. Very grateful for our capital reserve accounts. They are healthy. I do have a slide at the end where I will show you why we're asking for another warrant for continuing to add to the facilities capital reserve, because you may be thinking, wow, $1.5 million is a lot of money. We just had a district-wide audit by energy management consultants, and our buildings, although they look amazing, are aging. So we want to ensure that we keep them in good shape and also keep them tight from a utilities perspective, and we're not throwing heat and electricity and whatnot out the cracks in doors and things like that. Here we go. Grant funding, there's been a lot of concern over the last couple of years about grants, particularly heading into this budget year. We don't have the concern necessarily, although we can always be surprised, moving forward in regard to Title I and the preschool IDA grant. There is still some question whether Title II, which primarily is for professional development, and whether Title IV-A, which supports technology needs, will continue to be here in the future. But the other ones feel fairly solid at this point. I do want to point out, we just got notification that we received the round 4 of the SAFE grant, which is wonderful. So we will look for some security and building upgrades there, as well as education opportunities for administrators and discovery education. So a little over $96,000 that operations manager Ms. Connolly was able to get for us in this school year. So we are pretty excited about that. Anytime we can get grant funds, we do a little cheer. This slide I kept on for one more year, just to really show you the impact of the COVID years. The ESSER funds are, I think, finally in the rearview mirror. You can see there are no longer extra funds that the state is saying, hey, other districts didn't use this money. Do you want to write a little grant to try to get this money? And we really capitalized on that opportunity, as you can see in 22-23. So, but those funds are all gone. So just to give you a minute to loop back to our proposed and default budgets, you can see they are pretty close. And then the fun part, before we jump into the warrants. I think I can do this off the top of my head. I've been breathing it nonstop for months now. So there was a lot of confusion when open enrollment started to be discussed in the area across the state. People felt like, oh, this is a new thing that just got passed. And in reality, it is 30-year-old legislation. I think because there's been a lot of energy and interest and question around school choice, it has come to the forefront for people. So the interesting thing with that 30-year-old legislation is it's been an opportunity, but you would have had to have put a warrant article out in order to become either or both a sending or a receiving open enrollment district. So currently there is only one in the state. It's Prospect Mountain in Alton. And for a variety of reasons, there was a bill this past year, and it has carried into this year to now mandate open enrollment. So a few students went to Prospect Mountain High School. The Pittsfield received a bill saying, you owe us 80%. And they said, no, thank you. We're not an open enrollment school. And so it went to the New Hampshire Supreme Court. And the New Hampshire Supreme Court said, you don't have a choice. You need to pay that bill. So imagine being a smaller school district if students were to go and you're required to pay that money and you don't have those funds budgeted. So that, of course, made us all pause and start to really think and dig through the legislation and wonder, okay, what do we do to help protect our own home school district? But in Barrington's case, we have high school choice. Do we consider, what do we do, how do we honor potentially people's desire or choice to go out? Because there is still a bill that will make it mandatory for all districts to be sending and receiving. So remember, right now you have to put a warrant forward, but there might be a bill that gets signed anytime between now and summertime that says it's not an option, you must. And there will be no limits on the sending. You can still limit your capacity for who you could have come in, because clearly you can't fit 40 students in a classroom, right? So we'll be able to have some guardrails around that. So as a result of all that, the legal teams in the area said, you may want to consider putting a warrant out just to start to tip your toe in the water, protect your interests to the best that you can while we wait to see what's going to happen statewide. A few things have changed since I first presented this at the hearing. The new bill language, if it passes, says that you will have to pay 100%, so not of your per pupil cost, but 100% of where the student goes to. So you can imagine, if you think about some other more affluent situated towns in the area, that our per pupil cost is much lower than theirs, yet we would be financially obligated to pay that full amount if this bill were to pass as written right now. So that causes a little concern for us, as you would imagine. So I think that's all I'll say about that now. I have a lot more to say about it, but unless people have specific questions, I'll let it sit and simmer. All right, which brings me to the warrants. So moderator will go into them in more detail. I will fly through them just so you can kind of wrap your brain around what we're looking at, and then he will then entertain each one. We did put out a warrant last year to change our elected clerk, moderator, and treasurer positions from one-year positions to 2. So this is the first year that they will go on the ballot as 2-year positions. And just so people are aware, all of these positions are being run uncontested this year. Typically, warrant 2 would be next. I'm going out of order on purpose to allow some more conversation for warrant 6, which is around open enrollment. And we looked at class size, we looked at where we have, our teachers that we maintained, those numbers. And so this warrant, again, only if there is not a statewide mandate. Regardless, if there's a statewide mandate, this warrant becomes obsolete. But because we presented it at the hearing, we're talking about it today, and it will still be on the ballot. We will make sure we get notification out to people if something changes between now and March 10th. But as we sit today, we are looking to not exceed an additional 5 students at the kindergarten level, and we are being cautious there because we never know how many kindergartners we're going to get, although I will say our NESDEC studies are very reliable. And then at the first grade level, an additional 10 students, not to exceed 10 students. The way the bill is written, it requires you to put a percentage, so that's why this wording seems a little cumbersome. And then in order to develop policies and procedures for sending, we did put our sending at 5. So you can see fiscally, if we take in 15 and send 5, we're putting ourselves in a stable fiscal position. So that is what 6 is all about. 2 is our general operating budget. We did have some discussion this year about putting the tax impact on the ballot. I then discovered that you have to have a warrant for that as well. So I still wanted it here for informational purposes, it'll also be in the voter guide. So you can see that the tax impact for the proposed budget is 95 cents per thousand of assessed home value, and the default is 85 cents. So can't be on the ballot this year, but will be out there for public consumption. And then we will consider whether we want to actually write a warrant next year. So the timeline is very strict on when you can propose warrants, and we were out of time in which to add it this year. So just so people are aware of that. Come on. There we go. Warrant number 3 is for our paraprofessional agreement, and you can see the numbers there. The tax impact at the bottom at 5 cents per 100,000 of home assessed value, and I would just like to thank the negotiating team for their time and effort on that. We were able to clarify a lot of language within that contract, and we were able to reach agreement where we have hourly rates that continue to make us very highly competitive with the surrounding area. And that has been a commitment of the board and the community truly for multiple years for not only our teachers and related service providers, but also our paraprofessionals. And we do offer some benefits in our contract that many districts do not, like access to New Hampshire retirement, I think is the biggie. So just wanted to say thank you to everybody there for that hard work. Negotiations can be exhausting and challenging, but we always get through it. Warrant 4 is an article so that if 3 were to be defeated, it allows us to come back to the table to reconsider cost items only. And then 5 is to continue to add to our capital reserve fund. And then I just want to take a minute to show you this slide, which is information that we just received, like I mentioned, from the energy management consultants. They did a whole district-wide audit, and these are based on, they do a lot of work across the state, multiple, actually, states in New England. So we don't know what the actual project cost is until it goes out to bid and we do it, but I just wanted to demonstrate that in the next 2 years, here's the projected cost of the items that we will need to consider. And you can see that that total cost well exceeds the $1.5 million that we have in the reserve balance. So even if we add 250 over the next 2 years, and we get the 508,000 plus from FEMA for the generator, we still have some work to do. So just wanted to show you why I was continuing to recommend that we add to that facilities capital reserve account. We always do the best we can with the money we have in the operating budget and try to keep those accounts as healthy as possible for unexpected things that can happen. You know, the things that happen in your own home. So imagine in a building this size and 3 other facilities to manage the things that can happen. So I could talk all day. I'm going to stop. All right. Thank you all very much.
Okay, thanks, Deanna. As was mentioned, warrant 1 is to elect the Barrington School District officers, and we have 1 candidate for each position, so that won't be a tough choice, and there won't be much campaigning going on next month. The school board would like to consider Article 6, which is the open enrollment article ahead of Article 2, because if there are any major amendments to Article 6, it could change the numbers on Article 2. So if somebody would like to make a motion to that effect to take these out of order, we will consider that.
So moved.
Rick Walker made the motion. Second? Second. Carrie? All right. All those in favor of taking these out of order, raise your lovely little pink cards. All right, thank you. Well, that passes. So we'll consider Article 6. Shall the Barrington School District vote to designate the Early Childhood Learning Center and the Barrington Elementary School as open enrollment schools under the provisions of RSA 194D:3 to allow students who reside outside of the Barrington School District to attend kindergarten and first grade only, and to limit the percentage of additional kindergarten students to 5%, not to exceed 5 students, and to limit the percentage of additional first grade students to 12%, not to exceed 10 students, and to limit Barrington School District students who may attend open enrollment schools outside of the Barrington School District to 0.36%, not to exceed 5 students. Any comments from the school board? Any comments from the Advisory Budget Committee? Seeing none, any comments from the floor? Okay, yep. Come to the mic, please, and, oh, Joyce, okay. Joyce, lift the mic up so people can
Joyce
hear.
Capiello, Lois Lane. Could you just address transportation costs and how those are calculated for open enrollment?
There you go. Yeah. Actually, the bill could change, of course, as written. Currently, parents are responsible for the transportation with this caveat. If they are, I always hate to name towns because I feel like I'm just going to take the next town over because it's easy, right? Let's say a parent, from Barrington chooses to send their child to Dover and they live in Dover, they could drop a kiddo off at a pre-established bus stop, and then that community would be required to put them on their buses. So imagine if somebody were coming to us and now all of a sudden we're having to account for additional students ending up at our bus stops and needing to make space for them on our buses. So currently, primarily a parent responsibility with that little caveat.
Okay, yep.
Michelle Rohrabacher, Brooks Road. Deanna, you weren't quite sure on some figures in the current legislation that is pending. The sending district shall pay the receiving district an amount equal to not less than 80% and not greater than 100%. And it goes on further to state that if the transferring student's resident district average cost per pupil is less than the receiving district's average cost per pupil, such difference shall be charged as tuition and paid by the pupil's parents or guardians to the receiving district prior to the start of each semester. So when you're concerned about the numbers transferring out being unbudgeted, those students are already in our system. That funding has already been what we have budgeted for. The problem would be in receiving students if we choose to not charge the receiving students the above 80% of their town's sending budget to us. Is that correct?
I would say it is still a challenge if a student were to go out. So, and I'll give you a little scenario. Let's say you have a classroom of 18 students and 2 go out. You have to then write that check, but your expenses in district are not going down. You're still paying the teacher, you're still maintaining your facility. So you're sending monies out with no way internally to recoup that, if it's 2 students, close to $40,000.
Right, so I'm just trying to understand how you're considering that students will only be outgoing at that rate and not also considering that we are a competitive district and we are an attractive district and that students would want to be sending in. I'm more concerned about what we as a district will be doing for that 20% above the 80% required that we charge other districts and parents sending their children in.
So whether we would be charging the full 100%?
Correct.
I mean, if the language doesn't change, that would be a decision and a discussion that we would have at the school, with the school board making that decision. I would think we would charge the full amount for the incoming.
Okay, and then the warrant article as it stands is to limit the number incoming and outgoing, whereas it is not permitted with the current legislation. It's limited to the enrollment as reported each semester.
Right now, there's proposed legislation, but the 30-year-old legislation says you have to have a warrant that comes forward.
Right, House Bill 751, which is currently pending, is what says that it is limited to the enrollment that is reported to the state on a semester basis.
Yep. Correct. So we would have to determine each semester what our capacity is at each grade level. Also, the intent is that students only change schools one time a year. So as you're writing your policies and procedures, you could say, like a lottery process is happening on such and such a date, and then you're theoretically done for the year. But we'll have to wait and see how that fleshes out.
Right. I guess I'm still not sure, what's the school board's intention on developing a policy for setting our enrollment capacity each semester?
To receive?
Our capacity, period. It's
Yep.
not about our receiving capacity. We have
Just
to
our
report our
capacity.
capacity.
Sure. Yep.
And that's what we will be required to meet. If there's a district that wants to send a student in, we cannot deny them if we have capacity.
Correct. There's a lot of question out there. The most recent information that I have received, just last night actually, has said that they are going to base it on the actual physical capacity of the school building, which in my opinion would be extremely unfair. I don't want to speak for the 5 board members. My hope would be that we would stick with our policy of class size, and then that's how we would determine per class what we were able to accept.
Right, again, so that requirement of what our enrollment capacity is likely not going to be determined by us. The legislature has proven to us that they don't care what we want our budget to be. So we need to be proactive at the school board level to set our enrollment maximum.
There is
So
a policy
we
that
have
was
a
just, there was just a policy that was just, it's not, is it IF, JF? We just, it will be in the packet from, I think, the last school board meeting. I'm sorry, I can't remember off the top of my head, but we did just pass a policy per recommendations from legal and other surrounding districts that have also implemented the same policy in regards to how often not only are we reporting the numbers of what we consider capacity, but also what information goes into that calculation. We have been told, though, of course, like you said, the state might overrule that policy, but that you had to have that policy in place as a suggestion before you even considered the warrant article. And so we can certainly get you a copy of that policy for review. I just can't remember, I'm sorry, I can't remember the call number.
It was just up for first
Yeah, it's
read.
just up for first
So we
review.
have a series of policies pulled aside that we know as soon as the language comes forward, we know we need to update.
Okay, so is that something that you can provide to the town with the reduction in teaching staff for next year in the proposed budget? What is our capacity per grade level that we might see enrollment coming in? Because that will greatly impact what our budget is. When will that be provided?
Well, if we go on it'll not take me long at all.
Okay.
To take care of it. I can put it up on the website next week.
On the SAU website? Thank you.
Yep.
Hey, Roger?
Roger Gingrich, Barrington, in Barrington's Peabody Way. Wondering if you could say a little bit about the interface between our enrollment system and cost system here versus homeschoolers in town. Is that a flux, a fluid thing numerically and cost-wise?
I'm not sure I understand your question. One more time.
So there is a segment of town that does homeschooling, and there's a number of students who choose to do that. I don't know whether they change during the year or at the end, beginning of the year, and what is the cost implication for educating them within the system. I don't know how those numbers work.
So we are required to allow homeschool students access to extracurriculars, whether it be coursework during the day that they want to participate in, or after-school activities, clubs, athletics, et cetera. We have a pretty stable homeschool population. They tend to re-up at the beginning of the year, and they are most often students that we have not had historically, so we've not had a big financial impact as a result. We have the space for the few here and there that reach out and say, we want to attend an art class or participate in sports. That has not been a big impact for us.
Deanna, can you speak to, is that different if those families take EFA amounts than they
Yes, this is another confusing new layer this year. So EFAs stand for Education Freedom Accounts. You cannot be a homeschool student and an EFA student at the same time. And there was some conflict this year with people not understanding that. So if you take adequacy funds from the state in the form of an education freedom account, you can't then also say, I want the benefits of accessing the school system free as a homeschool student. So if you take an education freedom account, the understanding is that you would then use those funds to pay the portion of the course that you were, or the activity that you were asking to access in the public school system. So that is also part of the enrollment policy distinction that Carrie was referring to, is I think we need to actually designate all the different pathways for education and what that means for us as a public school system. EFAs, the income limit was raised this year. The state expended $51.6 million plus on EFA accounts, which means those are adequacy funds that are not coming to us, as public school participants, those students. So interestingly, this to me anyway, that given the size of our community, Barrington has 86 education freedom account recipients, and there's only 10,510 across the state that were issued. There's also an indication that number limit is going to be removed this year, which means you're just going to, and the state's not said where they're getting the money to fund it. So we're all a little concerned about where those funds are going to come from. So to be clear, however, if a student has always been a homeschool student and we've never seen those adequacy funds and now they've flipped to be an education freedom account student, that's not detracting from us because we've never had those funds before. The state is estimating that of those 10,000 plus EFA recipients, about 7% of them have come from the public school setting. The other layer there is you have your base adequacy funds. That number goes up if you qualify as a free and reduced lunch recipient, and up again if you are an identified student in need of services. And so the range, in my estimates this year, of lost funds was anywhere from around just under $30,000 to up to $100,000 for our community in this budget year.
Any other comments? Julian?
Julian Olivier, Beauty Hill Road. That was all very complicated, thank you. Unfortunately, I'm still confused.
It's a lot.
You are too. Rick, are you confused?
I am.
Yeah, okay.
I'm confused all the time.
So this is a question again about the state proposed legislation. Unfortunately, we're not talking about Barrington, we're talking about the state, and so I'm trying to understand. Am I understanding correctly that students can opt into any grade in Barrington? You spoke of the preschool and kindergarten, first grade. You're shaking your head no. So a student can't say, oh, for 8th grade, I'd like to go to Nottingham. Can't say, and we would pay for that, but can't do that? Is that what you're saying?
So are you asking about, is my mic on?
Doesn't appear to be.
Is it on now? There we go. Okay. So are you asking me about kiddos who would leave, or how many kiddos per grade level would come in, or both?
I'm asking if a student could opt for any grade level whatsoever to go to another district and vice versa.
So we, if the legislation passes as written, we can't limit who leaves. They would just go, regardless of age, grade, et cetera. So the extra layer there is they have to find a school that has capacity to take them,
Okay.
right? So if you flip that back to our side, and I forget your name, but I think that's what you were speaking to, was, we have to be proactive and do a really good job at looking at our class size capacity limitations and posting that as soon as possible. We'll be required to post it. Originally, it was you must do it at the first of every month, and now they're saying each semester. Well, who knows how the language will change between now and when it hits the governor's desk. I am hoping that it truly goes to a committee of conference for another year so that there's some more thought and put into the details around it. We often are given mandates without guardrails on how to implement them, but we do have the ability currently to, by grade level, say, here's our class size policy, here's our current enrollment, here's how many open seats we have.
Okay, so I think what you're saying is that if I have a sixth grader and I say, I want my child to go to X school because I think for whatever reason that's a good idea this year, you go to someone, superintendent, and say, write a check for $15,000 because so it would go, and vice versa. So you have to be ready with X amount of dollars to pay for that student to go to that school.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. So the second part of my question would be, does that apply to all schools, private schools, public schools, or only to public schools?
Public schools.
Only public? Okay.
And charter, public and charter.
And charter schools?
Fall under public,
Okay.
yep.
And I heard talk of homeschooling. Does this apply to homeschooling also?
I mean, if assuming it's a homeschooler here in Barrington as their resident district, they could then choose to go elsewhere because they could re-enroll at any time.
I guess what I'm asking, if parent says, I want to homeschool my child, you pay me $15,000?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
thank you for that clarification. Nope.
Sounds like a good deal,
Yeah, no. They could look to become an education freedom account student and get their per pupil adequacy funds, but that would come from the state, not from the district.
I see, okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's very complicated.
All right, behind you, Michelle. Awesome.
Good morning. My name's Laura Henderson. I'm a para at the elementary school. I also live on Washington Street in Barrington. I have more of a statement rather than a question, and I'm here in support of open enrollment. I want to be clear from the beginning, this is not a criticism of Barrington schools. It's a reflection on the children who live inside of our policies, especially the ones whose struggles are quiet, invisible, and easy to overlook. Across New Hampshire, there are roughly 161,000 students enrolled in public schools. Of those, estimated 64,000 children live in two households due to separation or divorce. That means tens of thousands of students are already living their childhood across calendars, custody schedules, and commutes they never chose. These children are not failing, they are adapting constantly. They adapt emotionally, learning far too early how to be flexible, how to say goodbye, and how not to make too much space, not to take up too much space with their feelings. They adapt mentally, tracking schedules, expectations, and transitions that would exhaust most adults. They adapt physically, enduring long drives, early mornings, late nights, and missed moments that quietly add up. And too often, school becomes another place where adaptation is expected. Many students have parents who live in separate districts, sometimes a significant distance apart. That distance decides whether a child can stay for sports, attend after-school programs, participate in clubs, or linger a little longer with their friends. It determines whether school feels like a place they belong or just another place they pass through. School should not be another system they have to manage. It should be the one place that does not ask more of them. Open enrollment offers flexibility where rigidity currently creates harm. It allows families to choose continuity for their child, one school community, one set of expectation, and one place they are known, regardless of which house they sleep in that week. It also allows parents to show up more fully. When both parents can attend conferences, performances, games, and everyday school moments, children feel it. When custody schedules tied to district boundaries no longer determine who gets to be present, children feel it. When parents aren't forced to choose between compliance and connection, children feel it. For families navigating custody agreements tied to specific school districts, open enrollment can mean the difference between limited involvement and shared responsibility. It creates space for equal presence, equal voice, and equal care in a child's school life. And this must be stated clearly. Open enrollment is not a one-way transaction. Students will come into Barrington. Enrollment numbers currently remain controlled through district intake and outplacement. Local oversight still remains intact. What changes is not control, but compassion. Barrington prides itself on being a district that puts children first, but putting children first requires us to look closely at the children who have learned to carry more than their share, quietly, politely, and without asking to be noticed. There are children in Barrington who already know what it feels like to be split between places they love. They already count days instead of weekends. They already pack bags and brace themselves for goodbyes that arrive whether they are ready or not. They carry the consequences of adult decisions silently because that's what they've learned keeps things calm. They are not asking for special treatment. They are asking for one place where they don't have to adjust, explain, or shrink themselves to fit. One place that stays, one place that sees them, and one place that doesn't leave them behind. Thank you.
Anyone else who hasn't spoken yet? Jack?
Jack Gale, Berry River Road. There are two populations that could move around that could be problematic under either, and I guess I'd like to answer the question, under either Article 6 or the pending state legislation. I think the state legislation says something about behavioral or disciplinary students and their ability to move so that towns can't convince parents, please take your son or daughter and go somewhere else. But also, there's another population that adds to the burden of you and your charges, which would be special needs students. You already tuck away over $500,000 to account for the needs of these students. We don't shun the ones that live in our town, but could this legislation or even this article lead to let's send those people there, which is a very scary thing, both economically and for the society in general. So if you could address how our article and what you know of the state, what protects us from those acts.
So as their student residents, we would still be responsible for the special education costs. So there would be no incentive to say, try and send them off. I think we have caring and compassionate educators and administrators and support personnel in our schools that aren't going to try and encourage parents to go other places. I think we have a special education capital reserve account because we can have and have had students move into the district that their previous district had placed them in what's called an out-of-district placement. So they weren't successful in a public school and they needed a very specialized program. Like if you think about, say, the Perkins School for the Blind, right? But that comes at a very high price tag per student, and then transportation costs, which are just astronomical. And so that's really what that capital reserve fund is for, generally to kind of have an insurance policy if that were to happen, or if we had a student in our district that we did everything we could to meet their needs and said we are not the right placement for them, and we determined, and it's always with parent agreement, that a different placement was for them, that we're budgeting now to go through June of '27. We can't predict what may happen. It's a lot. So, that's why we're trying to be fiscally responsible and be proactive, but I can't conceive of anyone who goes into education who thinks that would make the choice to try and encourage families to go elsewhere just because the child had behavioral needs. And certainly if it's special education needs, there's no benefit to anyone in this district doing that financially. Completely unethical, so. I think it would violate the Educational Code of Ethics.
Okay, yep.
Good morning, Samantha Lister, Church Street, also current first grade teacher. I just have a clarifying question. If you already addressed this, I apologize. I'm just trying to keep up with what's currently in the warrant article. So the way it's currently written with 5 kindergarten students and 10 first grade students as being the capacity for accepting students, is the term for that per academic year or per semester? I'm just looking to remember how many students would be coming and going within what time frame?
My thinking would be, because the intent is that students only would change schools one time, I think as educators, we wouldn't want to encourage families to move their kiddos multiple times, that you're looking at 10 students total for that year, and then that cohort arguably would follow, but you have to determine your availability each semester.
As the warrant article is currently written, is that implied, or would that need to be explicit that we put in the language that it would be per academic year?
We would explicitly deal with all of those details when we write policy and procedure.
Policy, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments on Article 6? Michelle?
Michelle Rohrbacher, Brooks Road. Sorry, I forgot one other question that I had. What is the guidance from the state in the event that we reach capacity from transferring in students, districting in students, and then we have new students arrive in our district that we are obligated to educate?
It has not been clarified at this point.
Okay, is that something that we are fighting at the state level to say, we either have to kick somebody out of the district that already was here, or we have to tell the new student in our district to go find a different district that we then have to pay?
I mean, I would never want to turn away anybody who moved into town, and I think that's why we need to be very conservative and cautious when we set those numbers, so that our class size policy is, I think, really favors smaller class sizes, students, so that our educators can do the best job that they can. My bigger concern would be if we're told, here's your new class policy at the state level. There are just so many unanswered questions right now. I've belonged to an open enrollment group of legislators and statewide administrators since last June. So thankfully, I'm hearing the information as fast as we're getting it, and doing the best that I can to be as clear and impactful as I can.
Thank you. And then looping back to a question from before about the EFA students that come in to seek access at the district level, what is our policy written that we charge those students as they come to seek access because they do not have rights to equal access as a home educator does under 193A?
Right. So there are a couple of districts in the area who have adopted policy because it has become a concern for them. We have not been approached by any EFA students in order to access. However, we do have a handful of policies that we know we need to start developing. And just to be proactive, that would be one that we would want to start to work on.
Okay, and where can a resident find the school equal access policy so that we can understand what the terminology is in how we will handle that? And also, the state has mandated that we have an equal access policy and that it is made public. So where can we find that currently?
So on the SAU website, under the school board tab, there's a policies tab, and all the district policies are listed in there.
Okay. One more question. I've lost it. Okay, that's it for now. Thank you.
Any other questions from the floor? Yep.
Kathy Ahern, Lee Road. I have a question on the proposed budget for the ECLC paraprofessional salaries. The 25-26 budget and the 26-27 proposed budget.
Excuse me, we're only talking about Article 6 right now. We'll get to the budget.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thanks. Yep.
Yeah, now can you just clarify, sorry, Lynn Geyer, Province Road. Can you just clarify on the warrant article, it says we're limiting to sending out 5. What happens if we have 6? Are we going to tell them no, or like how can we We would. We're allowed to?
Yeah, right now, yes.
Okay.
Not if the current bill gets passed, however.
Right. But in this, we would be allowed to say, and how would that be like a lottery system like we do for Oyster River?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments on Article 6? Seeing none, Article 6 will appear on the ballot as written.
I'd like to make a motion to close future consideration of Article 6.
Okay. All right, we have a motion to restrict reconsideration, which means we won't be able to discuss this anymore if we pass that. All in favor of restricting reconsideration, raise your cards. Okay, anybody opposed? Okay, Article 6 is restricted. Article 2, shall the school district raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amounts set forth therein totaling $34,173,459. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $33,970,666, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the school district or by law. Or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, Roman numerals 10 and 16, to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. This is recommended by the school board 5-0 and the ABC 3-0. Any comments from the school board? Any comments from the ABC? Superintendent, want to say anything before we get questions? Nope. Okay, any questions from the floor on warrant Article 2? Michelle?
Kathy, did you have a question?
It's about the pair.
Oh, is it about the contract or the budget? That's this warrant.
That's this one, okay. You can go, and then Robert. Okay.
Okay, so the ECLC.
State your name again, please.
Kathy Ahern, Lee Road. The proposed budget for the paraprofessional salaries is the same as the 25-26 budget, so I just wondered why that was. It's $178,410.
The contract is put out on a separate warrant. Every 3 years, when you do a new proposal, it doesn't go into the operating budget till the next year.
Voted on.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Robert?
Robert Drew, Parker Mountain Road. You had mentioned that you've got some increase in health insurance and some other contractual things. So it says that the default budget's going to be $33 million, but if you add those other things in that you're mandated to do, is that going to bring it up to the $34 million or pretty close to that anyway?
We would have to find, we can't increase. So if we go to a default, we would have to find monies elsewhere in order to comply with those mandates.
Right,
That's
but what
always the fear of the risk of a default budget.
Right, but what I'm saying is if you add those things into this last year's budget, it's going to raise it up anyway, right?
Correct. The
Pretty
default
close
and
to
the
the
proposed
34.
are extremely
Right,
close.
so we might as well pass the proposed one.
That would be fabulous.
One other question, it's not rated to the warrant article, but it's listed here. So looking at the proficiency, like ELA, I guess is English, math, and science, was that the percentage of people who have passed that test for that particular year?
Correct.
54, 43, and 34. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on Article 2? Michelle?
Michelle Rohrabacher, Brooks Road. I am questioning what we are spending chasing after grant money, how much it's costing to implement the funds because of the mandates that are tied to the grant. Are there ways that we can trim this budget because we can set aside something that is not required for what our teachers think the students need, but is something that we chased after dollars that then cost us more money?
So the majority of the changes that I would say are challenging from a requirement in the grant process have been in Title I. So if we don't do all the things to get our Title I federal monies, we would then essentially be eliminating our Title I program because all of those reading tutors get paid out of that grant. So to me, that is that cost does not outweigh, the work that we do administratively on our end to ensure that we get those funds.
Okay. And then, in general, we have a declining enrollment in our overall projection for next year, but the projected budget is to increase, separate from contract negotiations that are part of that. So we list in our warrant article the cost per pupil as being $19,285. But when you take the school budget and divide it by the number of students that are projected to be enrolled, our actual cost impact per student is $25,238. That's a difference of almost $6,000 that is not being presented to the town as the cost of doing business.
Mm-hmm.
So where is that $6,000 made up for? When we had the deliberative session last week, there are people that are upset that our fire and police need communications equipment. The fire and police impact is less than the ECLC impact on our town tax bill. So in a situation where we are trying to nickel and dime the municipal budget on our town, we need to find ways to decrease the spending on the school side. What are we doing to decrease spending, whether it's administrative costs or other ways to limit the cost per pupil? Because the actual impact on us as a taxpayer is nearly $25,000 per student.
I mean, I guess I would just go back to our state average per pupil costs. We are below the state average, and we do the best that we can in putting forth a trim budget. There's costs in there that aren't directly billed back to the students. So you can't just divide it out by the number of students. There's certain things that come out of that, like the curriculum adoption would be one. Like that's an expense next year that wouldn't then be on the books for the following year, so it would decrease.
Right, so the cost per student that is disclosed on the warrant article is the cost that is a specific set of data that each town across the board throughout the state has to extract those specific sets of data to give that cost per student. But that doesn't reflect the actual cost per student. There's not that transparency coming from the school budget to say the actual cost of doing business per student in the town of Barrington is not below the state average. Indeed, we are above the state average. For multiple years, we have been above inflation in our school budget. And you are asking to, again, be above inflation.
I just want to clarify, you are correct in that there are certain expenses that get factored into the per pupil expenditure. That is also true for the state average. So all the other districts also have the same expenses that don't factor into that. So when you look at that, what we spend in those areas is below the state average. So we're not trying to not be transparent, but there's limited things that get factored into the per pupil expenditure, and that's true for every district and for the state average.
Right, so my question is, how do we compare in the cost of doing business in the average of the state? We are looking at what our average that is reported by those specific data sets that each town compares each other to. What I am asking is how we compare to other towns for the actual cost of doing business per student.
And I don't think we've taken other towns' budgets and divided it by their number of students to find that out.
As a school board, that's something that we should be doing. We should be comparing, okay, our cost per student is excellent, and our teachers are saying they're buying supplies out of their own pockets. Where are we losing that we are costing so much in our town budget, but it is not reflected in how it is reaching our students? That is something you absolutely should be responsible in nailing down how we compare. How do we compare what is Dover spending on their entire school budget per student? What is Rochester spending? Those are huge districts. How do we compare to Newmarket? How do we compare to the cooperative district in Exeter? How are we comparing for the total amount that we are spending as the cost of doing business per student? That's something that the school board owes to the town.
Well, I apologize, we have not done that. In the 15 years I've been on the board, that's never been asked to the board. We look at, these are the expenses that we have to report to the state and compare that across districts to the state and compare it to the state. And we look at our school and our district, and that's when we try to be fiscally responsible. That's why we looked and said, you know what, with our lowering enrollment, we eliminated 2 positions and tried to do that as humanely as possible. But I think if you were to go to other districts, and again, we have not done this, but I think if you go to other districts that have higher per pupil expenditures than us, then you're going to see that if you took their total population and divided by their number of students, that would be higher than ours. And then districts that have lower per pupil expenditures and divided their total budget by their number of students, it would be lower than ours.
But that's just a guess, because the difference that we're not understanding is the part that's not those reported numbers to the state. So it could be that other districts have incredibly low administrative costs. That difference between the cost per pupil that's listed on the warrant article and the actual cost of doing business per pupil, you're making a complete guess that we're probably also in line with that because we're below the state average per
Yes,
pupil.
and we can't answer your question today. We don't have that information.
Okay, that is something that the school board should do.
We'll take that under advisement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Tracy?
Tracy Hardikoff, 48 Stone Farm Road. I just wanted to thank all of you for the hard work that has gone into your transparency piece with the school board budget. Year over year, you've added components that allow us to read line by line what's been spent, expended, what's been left over, where you've shifted dollars. I'm terribly sorry that you're facing the health insurance crisis. I'm very grateful that you're continuing to provide that benefit to the teachers, paraprofessionals, and staff. 2 things. It's coming up soon, but please support our paraprofessionals. They're boots on the ground. They do the hard work, student to student, and in small groups, they continue to enhance education working with teachers. In reference to this and the question that was just asked, you no more can come up with that comparison than we can come up with how much salt we put on the roadways. And the reason that you can't do that is because we can't break down by mile the amount that you spend on students. We're a large, very spread out community. Transportation costs cannot be drilled down that way. You cannot come up with the comparison of the number of each school district's special education students and how much has to be diverted per student within the classrooms for that. You can't just look at that dollar amount as dollar for dollar. So please don't promise that you'll do that, because then we would need another $200,000 to drill down those amounts. What I hope is that at the state level with open enrollment, you're given a vehicle to be able to collect monthly for the tuition that exceeds, because that's a whole other component of the fiscal responsibility being projected onto your school district. But I want to thank you for the 3 years of continually building that transparency for the residents of this town to be able to see where these dollars are going. Thank you.
Any more comments on Article 2? Yep.
Hi, Kim Donovan, Thatcher Way. Just a quick question about the potential cut of the elementary school teacher position. Could you just share the estimated class size for each grade level, if you have any idea of that, in particular K through 4, if this budget is passed?
Look at you, right there. So the first grade next year would remain at 6 teachers. So they will be, we can't have 14.3 kiddos.
yeah.
So 14, 15 kiddos.
Yep.
Then second grade would be, so then actually second, third, and fourth would be right around 18.
Okay. All right, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other comments?
Deanna, what's the state recommendation for class size?
State recommendation is significantly higher than ours is. I believe it is 18 at kindergarten, 20 or 22 at first and second, then it goes up to 24.
Thank you.
Yeah. I might be off a little bit, but it's significantly higher than ours is.
Okay, seeing no more comments, Article 2 will appear on the ballot as written.
I'll make a motion to restrict future consideration of Article 2.
Second.
Okay, all right, Garth and Carrie, we have a motion to restrict reconsideration of Article 2. All those in favor, raise your cards. All those opposed? Okay, that passes. Article 2 is restricted. Article 3, to see if the school district will vote to approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Barrington School Board and the Barrington Paraprofessional Association, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing levels over those paid in the prior fiscal year. For fiscal year 2026-2027, estimated increase $106,416. In the year 27-28, estimated increase $90,068. In fiscal year 28-29, estimated increase $90,351. And further, to raise and appropriate $106,416 for the current fiscal year, such sum representing the additional costs attributable to the increase and salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at the current staffing levels. Recommended by the school board 4-0 and the ABC 3-0. Comments from the school board? Comments from the ABC? Comments from the floor? Anybody? Yes.
Hi there, Gabby Drown, 7 October Way. I just want to say, as a special educator myself, I cannot thank these lovely ladies and what they do, including all your other staff in regards to this agreement. It is so hard to retain and find qualified and caring individuals to do this job. And I can tell you that I would not survive my job without it. And I guarantee you that all the educators in the Barrington school system would not be able to do their jobs without these people. So thank you for the support of this, and I hope that the town does the same.
Ron? I would like to speak.
Yep.
I would like to echo that. I'm, as a special education administrator in another community that has not been fully staffed all school year, the ramifications of not being able to attract and retain quality paraprofessionals who work with our highest need students is untenable. And, also can, in the end, result in additional costs if districts have to go to contracted agencies to find paraprofessionals to fulfill required IEP expectations that are, again, required by law. So I would highly encourage everyone to support this, one, because we have hardworking paraprofessionals who deserve the compensation and recognition, but also because it is the fiscally responsible thing to do to make sure that we retain the quality staff that we have.
Okay, any other comments? Seeing none, Article 3 will appear on the ballot as written.
I'll make a motion to restrict future consideration of Article 3.
Second.
All of Carrie's thunder.
Garth and Carrie. All right, all those in favor of restricting, raise your cards. All those opposed? Okay, Article 3 is restricted. Article 4, shall the Barrington School District, if warrant Article 3 is defeated, authorize the governing body to call one special meeting at its option to address warrant Article 3 cost items only. Recommended by the school board 5-0 and the ABC 3-0. Any comments on this article? Seeing none, Article 4 will appear on the ballot as written.
Make a motion to restrict future consideration of Article 4.
Second.
Who seconded that one?
Rick.
Rick, okay.
All Rick,
Garth and Rick. All right, all those in favor of restricting that, Article 4. All right, thank you. That passes. Article 5. Shall the Barrington School District vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $250,000 to be added to the School Facilities Capital Reserve Fund previously established on March 13, 2012. This sum to come from June 30 fund balance available to transfer on July 1. No amount to be raised from additional taxation. Recommended by the school board 5-0, and the ABC 3-0. Comments from the board? Comments from the budget committee? Comments from the floor? Michelle?
Michelle Robracher, Brooks Road. I am just curious, we had last year or the year before, I can't remember which, there was discussion about some upgrades that needed to happen in this room specifically about that thermal filming that is on the windows, and that was in an upcoming project. I don't know what the timeline is for that project, but I know that I've expressed concerns about the security risks that film presents, especially when it is dark outside. You cannot see through these windows or those doors outside without being immediately up to the glass if the light in the building exceeds the light outside the building. So I was hopeful last year that this was going to be something that was rectified soon, and I think that it was supposed to be rectified over the summer, and I'm wondering what's the timeline for that specific project and if that's reflected in this increase that you're asking for.
So it was not the thermal covering that was the concern previously. That actually was put up there specifically for a safety measure. They're on all of our windows in the district. The concern with the windows was a ceiling caulking issue, and as opposed to ripping out a full bank of windows at extreme cost, Joe Williams was able to come up with a plan and had consulted professionals to ensure that there wasn't a safety risk involved. There is some fogging when certain weather is going on. We did have a little bit of leaking at one point. We thought we were going to have to replace the full banks of windows, but we came up with a much more cost-effective solution for that. So that's why the project did not occur.
Okay, then I guess my concern's still about that film doing the exact opposite of what it's intended to do. While you cannot see out those windows, when it is bright in this building and dark outside, you can see plain as day every person in this room when it is dark outside and bright inside.
I'll have to look into it. That's a concern I have not considered, to be honest. I did not know that was a concern.
Okay.
Joe,
thank you.
Has a comment to that?
Joe? Joe Williams, the facilities manager.
That film that's on those windows is suggested from Homeland Security in order for the safety of our students in case of an active shooter type deal. That's what that film is dedicated for.
I personally will say from a safety standpoint, most of our kids are here during the day. Personally, from a safety standpoint, most of our kids are here during the day when it is light outside, so we don't want outside people seeing all of our students who are here during the day from Homeland Security.
Dana?
Dana Mandrack, 353 Scruton Pond. Look, we're up 1 to 2 years, but and I don't think we need to change this particular warrant article, but I think we might want to start looking a little further into the future, at least let us know collectively. I mean, I think we're talking at some point building changes, and we're talking about bonding and things of that sort. But I think it might be worthwhile for the community if we could be more detailed in 5 and 10 year projections, because some of these things are going to be very costly, and we don't want to get blindsided by them at some point. So 2 years is good, but it really would be nice to have some information out 5, 10, maybe even 15 years.
So we, thank you for that. We did just meet with the consulting firm. We already have nearly 10 years out for the purpose of today's warrant. I just showed the 0 to 2, the impact on the dollars. We literally just met with them at the last school board meeting, so Joe and I will get together and then post on the website a full plan of projects in the upcoming decade.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be out doing the 15-year project, but my kids might. So.
That's right. Thank you, Dannon.
Any other comments on Article 5?
Yeah. If I may, I think those of us that are considerably older than a lot of you in the room think this is still a new middle school, but the building's nearly 25 years old. And it was built with the best technology that was available 25 years ago. But as a member of the facilities committee for the district, one of the things we find out, and I'll use a perfect example, we put a generator in when the building was built here specifically to power the building during the day should the power go out and we could keep school going, but more importantly, for the town to be able to use this building for an emergency shelter should the need arise. Thankfully, over the last 25 years, we've not had to open a shelter. But one of the things we found out is that generator being 25 years old, when things go bad with it, the technology is such that a lot of that equipment is no longer available. And we met with the Energy Consulting Committee, company the other night. They met with us at the school board level, which I think you can go online and see that meeting 100% online. But it was amazing to me that when we started looking at air handlers and things like that on all these buildings, most of these things and boilers and such are 25, 30. You look at our elementary school, which I still think is a new elementary school because I went to the 6 rooms up on the top of the hill up in Ramsdale Lane. But the elementary school is 35 or almost 40 years old. And though we've do a lot of work and the town spent a lot of money over the years taking care of our buildings, and we're proud of the buildings we have, the infrastructure, when it's time to start replacing air handlers on the roof and stuff like that, is very expensive. So that's kind of why you'll see that thing on the 2-year out on the amount of money it's going to cost to do some of this work. So I think Dannon or whatever somebody said, we have to look at that number, and I agree that the $250,000 a year is probably not sustainable, and we'll probably have to start looking at asking you folks, the taxpayers, for more money. And it's also important to understand that this warrant article, what we're asking this $250,000 is to come out of any projected school surplus funds at the end of the year. We're not asking the taxpayers to dig in their pocket for another $250,000. That being said, you're right. If we don't give you back that $250,000, then we are asking you to dig into your pockets to spend it. But truthfully, what we hope is that we do better with some grants, and that some of the costs that we can't anticipate a year out, such as special education, or if we had to add buses and stuff like that, we hope that stays level enough for us that we are able to save some money and be able to put a little bit of money away to make repairs to the building.
Okay. Any other comments on Article 5? Seeing none, Article 5 will appear on the ballot as written.
I'll make a motion to restrict future consideration of Article 5.
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor of restricting? Okay, that passes. All right, that's the last article. Would anybody have a motion to end the deliberative session?
I'll make that motion.
Who made the motion?
Carrie.
I did.
Carrie made the motion, seconded by Tracy. All those in favor of ending the deliberative session, raise your cards. Anybody strongly opposed? Okay, the meeting has ended. Thanks for coming.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, guys.